What's good, Atlanta? This is What's Good Atlanta, breaking news and breaking down the stories that really matter. I'm Mark Kendall.
And I'm David Perdue. Each week, we'll run down uplifting or even unusual headlines from the universe known as Atlanta, as we all try to find a little something that's good. Mark, what's good with you this week?
You know, something's really good with me is I'm still basking in the glow that was the Atlanta Film Festival.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I got to check out a couple panels, run into some great filmmakers, and I was just really impressed with what was going on.
Love that.
Yeah, how about yourself?
This week, what's good with me is another good night. May 16th, we're doing another good night at Buteco, the Grant Park location. This one's very special because it's in partnership with Emory's Art and Social Justice program. Once again, it'll be free, and there'll be a DJ, and there'll be music, and there'll be comedy, and there'll be spoken word. And it's a fun, free time. So that's what's good.
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the headlines you might have missed. Here's what's good with the news this week.
This week, we're trying something a bit different. David had to step away for a minute, so we're going to have our producer, Scotty Crow, come in and share some top headlines.
Hey, Mark. Honored to be here. I have a few bits of news that I'd love to get your thoughts on, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Great. So to start, you might have heard, but Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene has introduced a bill into the House to rename officially the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Mm-hmm. The bill actually passed the House last week and is headed to the Senate. So, Mark, if we were actually going to rename that body of water, what should we go with? And just an idea that's a thought starter, the Atlanta Ocean?
Yeah, I think the Atlanta Ocean makes sense. The connector, Lake Lanier, expand these concepts out, to other bodies of water. It could go in a number of different directions. We could take it as a teaching moment, like other people were here a long time ago, way before us, however you want. But if we're coming up with new names, I think like brainstorming is good. I think there should be a contest, If we're going to throw it up for grabs, I think Atlanta Ocean should be right up there at the top, though.
I love it. I love it a lot. All right, our next one, still sticking with politics. So, Mark, did you know that Australia has a tradition on election days called democracy sausage?
I did not know that.
I didn't either.
It's fascinating.
Last weekend, grilled sausage vendors popped up at thousands of polling locations across the country of Australia, as well as at a handful of Australian embassies, including the ones in New York and Tokyo. Many of these vendors also raise money for schools or community organizations when they sell their sausages. But I learned that the popularity of the tradition is influenced by a few factors. First, election days are on Saturdays, so they're like these family outings, and citizens in Australia are required by law to vote. So there's like a 90% turnout rate. So Mark, I know that you've been involved in civic engagement in the past, and Georgia is obviously a state that cares very much about voting. What can we learn from Australia and democracy sausages?
It was really cool hearing about what Australia is doing. And the first thought that comes to me is like every election, we need to turn every Waffle House into a polling station. And you go in, you get to vote at your nearest Waffle House, so you got plenty of options, got people that are going to greet you with a kind smile. And then after you vote, you could get a sticker or you could get a free waffle,
Yeah.
And so people are walking around with their I voted sticker or their like waffle receipt, however you want to do it.
Yeah, it's like the sticker says, I secured my waffle.
Right,
yeah.
I secured my waffle. Yeah. And the sticker itself could be like a round circle with the Waffle House waffle on it. Yeah.
It's a great move.
Yeah.
All right, Mark. Next, can you guess how many rides on Lime scooters and bikes there were in Atlanta in April? What's the number?
I'm just going to guess 1 million. I'm just going to guess 1 million. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Do you know what? That's a great guess. It was actually 200,000, a little over 200,000. Okay. So far through April, through the first 4 months of the year, we've hit more than 500,000 rides.
Okay.
My question for you is that number too low, too high, or baby bear? Is it just right?
To me, in my mind, that's a little low, only because I guess wishfully I want people to be like taking scooters or bikes if they have that option. I'd like for them to do it as much as possible. Now, I was just at the Blinky Awards this past weekend, Propel ATL. They're doing a lot of great advocacy work for people that want to take scooters, want to take bikes. So, Scotty, I think I'm just in that mode. You know what I mean? I think there should be millions of rides every day,
Love it. All right, for our next headline, I think we need to jump over and bring in Curtis for some traffic.
Honks and beeps in the roads and streets, it's traffic with Curtis.
Hey, Curtis.
Scotty!
Nice to see you. Listen, so last Saturday, you probably know, a 4.1 magnitude earthquake in Tennessee was felt all the way down here in metro Atlanta.
Yep.
Can you tell us about the impact that had on traffic?
Man, Scotty, I was on a Lime scooter on the way to see the new Rico Wade monument in East Point. One of a million Lime scooter rides happening in the month of April. You know the good thing about a Lime scooter? The wonderful thing about a Lime scooter? You don't feel earthquakes, right? That's the thing about traffic in Atlanta. If you're moving slowly, no bumps or booms are gonna rattle you at all. If you're not moving, which you're not, any movement is welcome, just to help you feel something. You know, shake it like a Polaroid picture. Shake it. You know, speaking of feeling something, man, that monument for Mr. Rico Wade is a beauty. You know what I mean? Like, he did so much. Founding member of the Dungeon family. You know, the whole phrase, I want to get paid like Rico Wade, that's because he was out there making things happen. He was a man with the vision, you know, and not only did he have that vision, to see that vision realized really needs to be celebrated and remembered. And he was the original traffic reporter, right? I take my cue from him. You know, talking about rolling down the strip on Vogues and cars and intersections. He's a hero to this old Curtis. All right. Scotty, I forgot to mention this Lime scooter that I'm on. I've also attached some rocket fuel to either side. This is what I need every time I go to Alpharetta. All right, here we go. Toodaloo! This has been Traffic with Curtis.
Honks and beeps in the roads and streets, it's Traffic with Curtis.
Thanks, Curtis. So, Mark, I got a couple more for you. So,
Great.
There were a handful of really great stories from the past week, and I thought it might be a chance to debut a new segment called What Do You Have?
What do you have? What do you have? What do you have? What do you have? What do you have? What do you have? What do you have? What do you have? What do you have? What do you have?
What do you have, sir?
Okay, so in What Do You Have, I'm going to give you some options based on a bit of news, and you have to choose which one is right for you. Cool?
Great.
Cool. The first one, an absolute superstar of a student just graduated from Kennesaw State University. Her name is Callie Terza. She now has a degree in criminal justice with a minor in cybersecurity. She also holds world records in track and field and made the Olympic team in 2024, is projected to make the Olympic team in 2028.
Wow.
And just signed a 3-year deal with the WWE to become a professional wrestler. So,
Incredible.
Mark,
Yeah.
if you could choose one, do you take the degree in criminal justice, the chance to compete at the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles, or the professional wrestling contract?
Now, Scotty, I'm going to take the professional wrestling contract, you know, but that's only because I feel like if I was a professional wrestler, I could pretend to be those other things. Whereas, you know, if I had a criminal justice degree and let's say I was practicing in the courthouse or whatever else, I feel like it might be less appropriate for me to also cosplay as a professional wrestler in my everyday job. But I feel like I could be a wrestler that also like moonlights as a lawyer, you know what I'm saying? Or professional wrestler that has like a bunch of Olympic medals around their neck, you know? So I can't do all three at the same time like this amazing person, but I'll take the wrestling contract. What about yourself?
Oh, wow. You know, it's hard to argue with the versatility that you just presented, but if I had to choose one, I'm going to go with the 2028 Olympics. I mean, I lived in Los Angeles for a little bit. I find the Olympics to be a very exciting time every 4 years. And so if I could jump in there and compete on, you know, the global stage, and that would mean that I was like good at an athletic endeavor, that would make, at the very least, my family very happy.
That's great. I love that.
All right. So our next one, there's an 82-year-old. He just turned 82, Stan Cottrell. He's a local ultramarathon runner, grew up in Tucker. He just set out from the Georgia State Capitol to run 1,000 miles over the course of the next month. Now, he's previously run across the country several times, once so fast that it put him in the Guinness Book of World Records. And this month, he's running to raise money for an organization called Helping a Hero, which supports injured veterans. Also, he was a nominee for the Nobel Peace Prize.
My goodness.
Wow. So would you rather A, be able to run thousands of miles in your 80s, B, raise thousands of dollars for a good cause, C, be in the Guinness Book of World Records, or D, have done something that could get you a Nobel Peace Prize nomination?
Wow. So that's a tough one for sure. I think my initial answer, just off the top, is being able to run thousands of miles in my 80s. Because I feel like if I'm running thousands of miles in my 80s, who knows what other greatness I'm up to at that point, you know? So that's what I'm thinking. Now, Scotty, I know you're also like into running as well. I'm curious what you select for something like this.
I'm going to go I think like there are times in my life when I aspired to be in the Guinness Book of World Records and I really researched the niche that I could somehow enter that.
Right.
So again, maybe it goes back to just being really good at something, to make my family proud. I feel like that would be a good way to secure that. And that's like, they can relate to that a little more than a Nobel Peace Prize. You know what I mean? So,
well, yeah. Was there a particular record you were thinking about breaking when you were researching it?
Yeah. You know what's funny?
Guinness?
It actually was involved running. It was running a marathon wearing a business suit, which if you know me, those are two things that I really love to bring together. And I thought that it was within my abilities at a certain point. So
yeah,
that's how far I got down the path. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Okay. Last one. What do you have? Guy Fieri, you know him as the mayor of Flavortown and the host of the show Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. He was in town earlier this year, and episodes featuring Atlanta restaurants like Yumby and El Tesoro, also rumored that Deer and the Dove, friend of the pod. B-Side, How Crispy Express, and others also will have features in upcoming episodes. So the big question here, Triple D, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. Mark, what do you choose?
My gut answer is Dives. And that's just because I think of those three, I spent the most time in Dives because that's where a lot of comedy shows end up being, dive bars, things like that. And I also like how a dive bar can just sort of double as, a place for community. I love the experience of going to a drive-in. And it is cool, being there with a bunch of other folks. However, you are a little bit more closed off. And I love the experience of going to a nice diner. But I just got to say, like, a dive can mean so many different things. It could be, a place where you're seeing some awesome music. You're in a bar with a ton of personality, or it could be like a fun karaoke night,
Yeah. I also feel like a dive is not trying to be anything other than what it is. Like it's an authentic space, which is really nice.
I like that a lot too.
Well, Mark, I love this. This has been the first installment of What Do You Have?
What do you have, sir?
And last, it's a bit of sad bummer news, actually. Actual friend of the show and friend to all of Atlanta, Magnet Man, reported that his bike was stolen off of his vehicle last week. We had Magnet Man on for our first live show. We've done a couple features on him. So we're heartbroken by this. So this is the very bike that was used to pick up literal tons of screws and nails and other tire puncturing trash from the streets of Atlanta. So his Instagram account is at Atlanta Magnet Man, has details on how the bike was stolen. If you can help, if you have a tip to help him relocate his bike. It's a very unique bike, so you might see it out in Atlanta. But Mark, all that said, Magnet Man is a hero. He's the hero that we need in the city.
Absolutely.
What kind of fate do you feel that this bike thief villain is going to face?
I mean, Scotty, it's not looking good for this bike villain because I will say that is probably the most important bike of all Atlanta, And so to steal that, they must not, I don't know. I don't know what was going through their brain. But that said, the consequences got to be steep. I'm thinking like, each time they take anything with the tire, they're going to get a flat tire every single time. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Every time they order lemon pepper wings, the person mishears them. And instead of giving them lemon pepper wings, they just get full lemons with a bunch of pepper sprinkled on top,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think that they will encounter never ending traffic until they return the bike to its rightful owner, the superhero known as the Magnet Man.
Well, listen, if you have any tips or information on how Magnet Man can get his bike out, please visit his Instagram account. Send in love and support to Magnet Man. Let's get that bike back on these streets. And with that, those are the headlines. Mark, thanks for letting me sit in.
Oh, Scotty, it was amazing. Fantastic. And after a quick break, we'll be right back with this week's top story. And now, back to the news. This week's top story is a bittersweet one. Last week, Goodie Mob announced their farewell, that the group will be no more.
CeeLo first shared the news via Instagram with Cujo, Timo, and Big Gip following. There's talk of a final album and tour, though no details have been confirmed.
If Oasis can do it, Goodie Mob can definitely do it.
I agree, and as y'all know, Goodie Mob was part of the Dungeon family and set the tone out the gates in the mid to late 90s with the album Soul Food and Still Standing.
Bangers. David, any favorite tracks off those first albums or otherwise?
I actually did a paper in college on Soul Food that I got an A on, so I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
I convinced my teacher to let me do a paper on Goodie Mob. Cell Therapy, Soul Food, the whole album is one of my favorites. It also was, I remember when you got CDs and you could read inside CDs.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I found out that like CeeLo went to the same church I did growing up when I was a baby. And I asked my dad about that and I showed him a picture of CeeLo. And he was like, that was that bad kid. He used to be bad in church. And I was like, that's such an Atlanta thing to just be at the same church as, you know, one of your heroes. So,
That's funny.
Yeah.
I'm like, right now, I'm just kind of scrolling through the track list of their early albums, you know, like Soul Food, for example. And there's just so many great ones. I mean, Free, Cell Therapy, like you said, so many. Guess Who, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Fantastic.
also one of my favorites is Get Rich to This.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of my favorites. I was always a big Goodie Mob fan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I just think that they're one of the most, probably say, underrated rap groups ever.
Mm-hmm.
The first album was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Even Beautiful Skin, I remember that's a super dope one.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's just so many.
Yeah.
Sky High, of course, Sky High. Yeah, no, I just think that it's sad, but it's also like I get it. You know, at a certain point you go, what are we doing?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so Mark, like, where were you? Can you remember like the first moment you heard Goodie Mob?
It would have been at a birthday party or like someone's like roller skating birthday at something, you know, just kind of like being in the background somewhere. But I don't know if I have like a distinct memory of when it happened. It was just kind of like there, if that makes sense.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
What about yourself?
So I was one of those people who didn't grow. I had to get fed music through older cousins and stuff.
Yeah.
But that for whatever reason, I guess they weren't into Goodie Mob. Okay. So I didn't hear about Goodie Mob until Get Rich to This came out and it was on the radio all the time. Mm-hmm. And then I went back and I was just like, oh, this is amazing. But I do remember riding the car to Get Rich to This often. Like when they were like when I was like with a friend's car or something like that, it'd be on the radio. Get Rich to This, and I was like, I just remember all of the words. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the ad-libs.
Yeah.
Zay. Yeah, I remember like I remember it all.
Yeah.
Being a kid with that. So yeah, that was probably my first introduction to it for sure.
That's great.
Yeah. And with all that wonderful nostalgia, there was definitely turbulence in the group, with a number of breakups and reunions and hiatuses for side projects.
You know, the indefinite hiatus and unexpected side project followed by rumors of a reunion is a very on-brand thing for the Dungeon family.
Don't we know it? But Mark, it's also a very Dungeon family heavy season right now. This Goodie Mob news, the Rico Wade statue in East Point, Outkast induction to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Turns out the South did in fact have some things to say.
And with that in mind, I think it's time for a Top 5.
Top 5.
Okay, David, with this Goodie Mob news and the echoes of a possible album and tour, I think we need to get some action items going for Timo, Cujo, CeeLo, and Gibb so that we don't lose any steam and this farewell doesn't fizzle.
Okay, Mark, let's go through the top 5 things we'd like to see happen on this album or tour.
Okay, well, David, one thing I want to see is like a hologram Goodie Mob doing verses against the real live action Goodie Mob.
Ooh.
You know? So just like back and forth.
Okay.
Together. Like almost like a mirror exercise, you know?
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to swing for the fences here.
Yeah.
I know it's a Goodie Mob reunion, but the whole Dungeon family kind of needs a reunion.
Yeah.
Let's make it that.
Ooh, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, let's definitely make it that. That's like my priority number one.
Yeah.
Is because I feel like I didn't get to see them perform for real when I was coming up.
Yeah.
So I'm like, give me that. I'll show up wherever they're at.
Yeah.
Even if it's just them, but like just give me the Dungeon family.
Right.
Performing at the Dungeon.
Yeah.
Be very clear about that. I
Yeah.
think that'd be dope, like an outdoor show.
Yeah. I feel like, you know, with Goodie Mob, the Dungeon family in general, so cinematic, right? You know, like their music evokes these images, memories, right?
Okay.
So for movies, a lot of times, they'll do like pop-up restaurants. Do the same thing for Goodie Mob. You know, pop-up soul food restaurants along the tour. You know, so if you want to follow them on tour, you got like your pre or post-show meal, depending on how you're consuming food.
Okay.
Along with your music, you know?
I love that. I'm trying to think of something else that I want that they haven't given me. You know, you said something that made me think of a like. So remember Andre 3000 had like the School of 3000 was a cartoon?
Yes.
Give me a Goodie Mob cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
Give me a Goodie Mob cartoon.
Yeah.
I don't think they should be teachers, but like I don't think it should be like in a school. But like maybe they have a soul food restaurant.
They could have a soul food restaurant.
Yes.
You know, with the different types of kids' TV shows, they could be running a soul food restaurant. They could be superheroes.
Yes.
Moonlighting as superheroes.
Ooh, okay.
They got a soul food restaurant during the day, and then at night they had to go save Atlanta.
We ain't never thought about it like that.
You know?
Everybody's usually like, I'm a billionaire / superhero.
Right.
Nobody's ever just been like, hey, I work at a restaurant.
Yeah.
And then also I save the day.
Yeah. There are multiple ways to save the community.
There's
Feed
so many
them,
ways.
You know what I'm saying? And then you
Yes.
can also stop them from whatever villains are flying
Come
around.
on.
You know
That's
what I
a
mean?
great idea.
Yeah.
That's
That'd
a
be
great
super fun.
idea.
You know, you were asking like when I first heard Goodie Mob, and I don't know if this is the first time I heard them, but like I said, I was thinking back to like, you know, being at a roller skating birthday party, you know, for a friend or something like that. Like, it'd be cool to have like limited edition Goodie Mob roller skates.
Ooh.
Or like limited edition Goodie Mob sneakers that can turn into roller skates.
I'm into this.
You know what I mean?
Wheelies?
Wheelies.
Heelys?
Yeah.
For Goodie Mob?
Yeah.
Say no more.
Goodie Mob wheelies.
Goodie Mob wheelies.
Whatever you want to call them. Yeah.
Yeah. I got one final one.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know how this is going to play with everybody.
Okay.
But I feel like they should be on the commercial and also be the face of the Georgia Lottery with Get Rich to This playing under it. So it's just a bunch of scratch offs. And then you just like, and it says Get Rich to This. If you get Rich to This, you won.
Yeah. Yeah.
They should be the face of the Georgia Lottery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That makes sense, right?
I think it does make
Come
sense.
on.
And the
gosh.
scratch offs, instead of being numbers, it's like the different members' faces.
That's it.
You know what I mean?
You see the vision?
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
This has been Top 5.
Top 5.
Okay, Mark, what's some good that you're taking into the weekend?
I'm taking into the weekend the fact that this is like a Dungeon family moment that we're having between, you know, Goodie Mob, you know, Outkast, Rico Wade. Like, this is a moment, this is a feeling. I dig it. I'm going to hold on to that.
Yeah.
What about you, David?
I'll be honest, all this soul food, I'm going to go get some soul food. I'm real hungry now. So
Do you
take
have
that.
a soul food spot, or are you like talking about like cooking your own at home?
See, when I was younger, I would like think of spots. And now it's just me. Like, it used to be the Beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, the Beautiful was my spot. Now it's like, I can cook this.
Right.
Shout out to the Beautiful.
The Beautifuls taught you what they need to teach you, and then now you can kind of like take that and make it your own. Absolutely, I see that.
So, but soul food is getting eaten this weekend.
Right.
For sure. Okay, y'all, don't forget, you can always send us a message at podcast@wabe.org and let us know what's good in Atlanta, be it breaking news or maybe just a bright spot past Headland and Delow.
What's Good Atlanta is produced by us in collaboration with Cool Productions and WABE. Our executive producer is Scotty Crow, with additional production by Matt Owen. Find more at wabe.org/What's Good Atlanta. See y'all.
Hey.
WABE.